Hello, I'm June Edwards, and welcome to Senior Topics. This is for the last day of November, November 30th. And yesterday was the first Advent Sunday, if you'd like to use the Advent calendars, working your way up to Christmas. So, it's the four candles, and then you light the fifth one on Christmas Day. So yesterday you would have lit one. So that was for Advent Sunday, the first one. And I want to read to you from the calendar for December. I have to say that I've worked at NOCE for about 15, 16 years now. And it's been about 10 years since we've actually had classes after Thanksgiving and gone into mid-December. So we have approximately two classes. I think our last day will be around the 14th or 15th of December, and then we will be off for 4 to 5 weeks, and then we'll start in mid-January. So I want to make the best of the time that I still have with you. And thank you that you're here and that we can be together for at least a few more weeks. I'm in the middle of sucking on a Hall's cough drop because I'm not used to talking so much. I'm alone most of the time. My son lives with me, but he's working. And so when I talk so much, my voice starts getting raspy, and I'll try not to get too raspy with you, okay? All right. So December 1st is Eat a Red Apple Day. It is also Rosa Parks Day because it was December 1st in 1955 that Rosa Parks was on her way home from work. She boarded the bus and she was really, really tired. She refused to give up her seat. She was a Black woman in the South, and she refused to give up her seat to a white man. So she was arrested, and it started a bus boycott in her city, and was one of the early moments of the civil rights movement. On December 2nd is National Fritters Day. If you've ever fried fritters, they're really good. I like to make the zucchini fritters and the carrot fritters for my grandchildren. I try to stuff vegetables down them any way that I can. And you've probably been that way with your own kids at one time or another. So, National Fritters Day. Maybe they'll give you some fritters at your facility on Tuesday, or not Tuesday, but the next day on Wednesday, the 2nd. December 3rd, International Day for People with Disabilities. And on this day, go up to somebody who has a disability and congratulate them and say, "You are an international star for today," because December 3rd is International Day of People with Disabilities. It is also National Roof Over Your Head Day. And boy, am I grateful to have a roof in my house. And it doesn't leak or anything. I'm glad about that. And I'm glad for you too that you have a roof over your head and you're being well taken care of. Also on the 3rd, in 1967, was the very first successful heart transplant. And I remember it was Dr. Bernard, and I think he was from South Africa. And it was a really, really big deal. I do vaguely remember that. And now people can get parts of hearts, and it's no big deal. In fact, Kaiser has a whole hospital dedicated to hearts. One floor is for getting certain parts of the heart done, another floor is for other aspects of heart care. And it's an amazing place. They go through about 60 surgeries a day in their 5 different surgery rooms. And the reason I know this is that my husband had a heart attack a few years ago, and the ambulance took him up there, and he was able to get part of his heart rebuilt, and it gave him another year and a half to live. And we were grateful for that. The next day is December 4th, National Cookie Day. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I got to talk to you about that, especially since we're just getting off Thanksgiving weekend. And oh my gosh, I had too much pecan pie. Then I had a little sliver of pumpkin pie for breakfast. My grandkids had stayed over with my daughter and her husband, and they said, Nana, you have pie for breakfast? And I said, no, not usually, just this weekend. I got to get back on the straight and narrow pretty quick, I tell you. The 4th is also Wear Brown Shoes Day. And in 1877, the phonograph record player was invented. And boy, we've had records, and then we had 8-track tapes, and then we had cassette tapes, and then we had CDs, and now we're streaming everything through the internet. And you know what? A lot of people are going back to the vinyl records because you don't have to worry about the internet for that. And they like the warmer sound that the vinyl produces instead of the digital. What do you think? Which one do you prefer? I know I love to hear good music too. Now, December 5th, that was when they had that Montgomery bus boycott. That was 3 days after Rosa Parks had refused to give up her seat. And she must have been a very popular, well-liked woman because the black people in the community organized the boycott, and they really it was an economic hardship for the bus company, and it led to some big changes because they organized so well. Now, December 6th, Ira Gershwin's birthday. I love the Gershwin music. It is also Mitten Day, when people start wearing mittens up north. It is also St. Nicholas Day, and in Scandinavian countries, the children put out their shoes, and in the morning they're filled with candies and fruits. It is a day just to honor St. Nicholas, and from Saint, we get the word Santa, and from Nicholas, we get the word Claus. So, of course, in the United States, we talk about Santa Claus. Also, the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery in 1865 was ratified and passed. And the last one I'll give you today for the first week of December is the 7th, National Cotton Candy Day, and then a date that will live in infamy forever, according to FDR. It's Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, when the Japanese bombed our U.S. naval fleet stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii in 1941. Very, very significant day for our parents, and those who are in their 90s. They were around when that happened, so they will remember that as well. Now, the first thing I want to share with you after that is that my printer has jammed, and I don't know if it's because my grandkids were here this weekend, but this is what we found in the machine. And so I'm going to have to read some of my stories from the newspaper for you. So I get my news for you from all over. And then I also have this thing here that I want to give you about Walt Disney. Walt Disney's birthday is December 5th. Maybe I better start with that one because I've got it on my little Apple mini pad thing here that I'm using. Walter Elias Disney, and his nickname was Walt, was born December 5th, 1901. He was an American entrepreneur. an animator, a writer, a voice actor, and a film producer, and an all around very, very smart businessman. He was a pioneer of the American animation industry, and he introduced several developments in the production of cartoons. As a film producer, he still, to this day, holds the record for the most Academy Awards earned by an individual. He has won 22 Oscars from 59 nominations. He was presented with two, not just one, but two Golden Globe Special Achievement Awards and an Emmy Award. He was born in Chicago, and when he was a very, very young boy, his father obtained a newspaper route for both him and his brother Roy, who was a little bit older than him. And they had to go and deliver papers. Their father made sure they did it every morning and every evening. And it didn't matter how cold it was, father would kick them out of the house and tell them to go do their job. And it may have been because Disney was one of, I believe, 6 children, and they were all boys except for one girl named Ruth. So when he reached the age of 16, the family had moved over to Missouri. Then they moved back to Chicago again. It was a tough life for them, and he had a tough dad who did not show a lot of affection towards him. Disney said he never really had a childhood. And I think that's one of the reasons that he was so interested in making sure that his grandchildren could experience a beautiful, beautiful childhood when he built the Disneyland for them. But that's not how he started out. He started out as an animator, and one of his first jobs, let's see if I can get down to it here. Um, one of his first jobs was he was paid to draw a neighbor's favorite horse. And apparently, he was very skillful with that. Then he also practiced drawing by copying the front page cartoons from the newspapers that he had to deliver each day. He began to develop an ability to work with watercolors and crayons. He lived near the railroad station and he fell in love with trains. He never lost his love for trains. He and his younger sister Ruth started school at the same time in late 1909. He had this exhausting schedule when they moved back. First, they did it in Kansas City, Missouri. And he and his brother Roy had to get up every morning at 4:30 to deliver the Times before school and repeat the round for the Evening Star after school. And Disney got poor grades because he would fall asleep in class. Not only that, but he continued his paper route for more than 6 years up until his high school days. And he also attended Saturday courses at the Kansas City Art Institute and took a correspondence course in cartooning, and he had to pay for all that himself. In mid 1918, when he was 17, Disney tried to join the United States Army to fight against the Germans in World War I, but he was rejected for being too young. He forged the date of birth on his birth certificate, and that enabled him to join the Red Cross, and he became an ambulance driver. He was shipped to France, but he arrived in November after the armistice had been signed. Thank goodness that we did not lose this talented, creative man to World War I. Now, what did he have on the side of his ambulance? He drew cartoons all over his ambulance. And that's how people knew it was Disney when he came up, with his ambulance decorated with cartoons. And he got some of his work published in the Army newspaper, the Stars and Stripes. When he went back to Kansas City in October 1919, he worked as an apprentice artist in an art studio there, and drew commercial illustrations. And he also befriended a fellow artist who would stay loyal to him till his dying days. And that guy's name was U-B, Iwerks. Well, Disney and Iwerks got laid off right after Christmas in 1920. So they started their own business, and it only lasted a few weeks. It was the Iwerks Disney Commercial Artists. Then Disney left to temporarily earn money at the Kansas City Film Ad Company, and Iwerks was able to join them too, but they didn't pay very well. And they said that anything that Disney invented, because he did invent a few early successful cartoons like Mutt and Jeff and Coco the Clown, but his boss claimed the interest in all of that. He decided that he better open a new business, and so he did. And they started producing shorts for the silent movies run in the movie theaters. In May 1921, the success of the Laughograms led to a Laughogram studio, and he started hiring several animators, including his friend Iwerks. The Laughogram cartoons did not provide enough money, so then Disney started production of Alice in Wonderland. He combined live action with animation, and it resulted in a 12 and a half minute one reel film, and that was able to save the studio, which was on the verge of bankruptcy. Disney moved to Hollywood in July of 1923. New York was still the center of the cartoon industry, but he wanted to go to LA because his brother Roy was convalescing there. He had contracted tuberculosis. He wanted to become a live action film director. And he signed a contract with the lady who had started Felix the Cat cartoons. And they signed a contract for 6 Alice in Wonderland comedies. And then that was the time when Disney and his brother Roy formed the Disney Brothers Studios, which later became the Walt Disney Company. And Roy was always the business side, and Walter was the creative side. And so they went through several things. And at that time, he got married, and he married one of his first employees. Her name was Lillian. And then they had 2 daughters, and they were very careful to keep these daughters out of the public eye as much as possible, especially after their friend, Mr. Lindbergh, had a child kidnapped who was later found dead. And Disney took steps to ensure that the press never ever got to take pictures of his daughters. Well, he created Mickey Mouse and put him out. First, he wanted to call him Mortimer Mouse, but his wife had a say in that. And Lillian said, "Oh, Walt, that sounds too pompous." She suggested the name Mickey instead. And Iwerks, his friend, revised Disney's sketches and made the character easier to animate. And Disney provided Mickey's voice all the way until 1947. He was a voice actor. One Disney employee said one time, Iwerks designed Mickey's physical appearance, but Walt was the one who gave him his soul. So Mickey Mouse first appeared in May 1928 in a short silent cartoon. But in 1927, there was a talkie called The Jazz Singer, and it was such a sensation. So Disney started using synchronized sound on the next one called Steamboat Willie. And that's where it's the first post-produced sound cartoon. And then he signed a contract with a former executive of Universal Pictures, Pat Powers, and started using their recording system. You know, he was always on the edge of technology for many, many years, all the way up. He always embraced new technology. He filmed Flowers and Trees, a 1932 film in full color, three strip Technicolor. He also used the three strip process until 1935. And after that, all his cartoons were in color. And it was popular with the audiences. In 1933, he produced The Three Little Pigs. It was described as the most successful short animation of all times, and it won him another Academy Award in the short subject area. And, you know, by the end of the 1930s, even though there was a depression on, Disney's staff numbered nearly 200 people, and he kept them busy and he kept them working, and they were so grateful to him for that. The golden age of animation is regarded as 1934 to 1941. He made Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs based on the fairy tale, and it was a film, a full length film. Many people thought it would bankrupt the company. In that year, 1934, it cost $1.5 million to produce. But he even brought animals into the studio so that the animators could study realistic movement. He developed a multiplane camera which allowed drawings on pieces of glass to be set at various distances from the camera, creating an illusion of depth. He was such a clever man. Well, the film took him 4 years to make, but when it came out, then he and his brother Roy started the company's first public stocks, and that's how they kept the company going. During World War II, he made propaganda films. It was the Walt Disney Training Films Unit to produce instruction films for the military. And he met with the Secretary of the Treasury and produced short Donald Duck cartoons to promote the selling of war bonds. Then, after the war was over, by 1948, he started a popular live action nature films. He was always trying to branch out. And then later on, he moved to other things. In 1949, they moved into the Holmby Hills district of Los Angeles, and he developed blueprints and he built a child-sized railroad called the Carrollwood Pacific Railroad, and the miniature working steam locomotive was built by an engineer, which he named the locomotive Lilybell after his wife. And his guests, when they were invited to dinner, they all had to write on this, even though they were way oversized for it. He had track all over his backyard. In 1950, he produced Cinderella, his studio's first animated feature in 8 years. Later on, the story of Robin Hood and his merry men, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland. Now, he had been thinking for several years that he ought to build a theme park. He was disgusted with how dirty some of the carnival shows were. He had been considering a theme park, and when he visited Griffith Park in LA with his daughters, he wanted to be in a clean, unspoiled park where both children and their parents could have fun. He visited the Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen, Denmark, and was heavily influenced by the cleanliness and the layout of the park. In March of 1952, he received zoning permission to build a theme park in Burbank near the Disney Studios, but it was too small. So he went out into what was the boonies at that time, Anaheim, and he bought a larger plot 35 miles south of the studio. And then he formed a new company, Walt Disney Imagineering, and he used his own money to fund a group of designers and animators to work on the plans, and they became known as Imagineers. He got other people involved, the American Broadcasting Theaters and ABC, which Disney now owns. And the park was designed as a series of themed lands linked by the central Main Street, USA, which was a replica of the Main Street in his hometown. The connected themed areas were Adventureland, Frontierland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland. I have an older friend who was there the first week the park opened. It was 35 cents, and she still has the ticket. They had little ticket books that got stamped, and she's held on to that all these years. Boy, what I wouldn't give if I still had my first Mickey Mouse watch, which I bought in the late 19, oh, I didn't buy it. My parents did in the late 1950s. Of course, how are all these different themed areas connected? By a narrow gauge Disneyland Railroad. And he loved that. He loved having that. And it was a success. After only 1 month of operation, Disneyland was receiving over 20,000 visitors a day. By the end of the first year, it had attracted 3.5 million guests. And of course, it's gone on and on since then. They opened up the Mickey Mouse Club in the 1960s, and it was a variety show catering specifically to children. And they had lots of merchandising that went with it, toys and magazines and books and all kinds of things. Then they did Davy Crockett. The Ballad of Davy Crockett became internationally popular with over 10 million records sold. So Disney formed another company, Disneyland Records. And of course, today they have something on cable called Disney Plus. Now, Disneyland has been shut down during COVID-19. It has lost millions of dollars. But because of the cable company and the internet productions, Disney Plus has brought in so much money. But I heard from a friend of mine who lives in Anaheim and knows all about Anaheim politics that this city went to the governor and begged that they would do anything and make everything super, super clean if they could open up. They had a couple false starts over this summer, but with the latest uptick, they have been closed down. I went in October and downtown Disney was open. I only had to stand in line with my granddaughter for maybe about 20, 30 minutes, had to have my temperature taken, had to have my bags inspected or my purse. And there wasn't a lot open, to tell you the truth. There was only outdoor dining. The Lego store was doing a brisk business, though. So we had a lot of fun going in there. And she got to pick out her birthday present, a new set of Legos. So that's it. December 5th is Disney's birthday. Of course, he passed away from lung cancer. See if I can find that here. You know, he always smoked, never on camera. He also drank, but he died 10 days after his 65th birthday of what they called circulatory collapse, but it was caused by the cancer. And yet he had all these projects on the drawing board. His brother Roy continued the business. He released the Jungle Book, The Happiest Millionaire in 1967. So that by that time, Walt Disney, even posthumously, had been involved in 81 full-length features. Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day was released in 1968. And then they had a Disney Renaissance in the 1980s. It came back, The Little Mermaid, and so many things. And then Disney's brother Roy finished building Walt Disney World in Florida. And because the state of California has very, very strict COVID guidelines, Disney has threatened to open another theme park in Texas, which is much more open and business friendly. And they are thinking about moving the business down to Texas. So we'll just have to all stay tuned and find out what happens with Disney. Just a few more things I wanted to tell you. Oh, yeah, work on your weight loss if you're gaining weight. I am from eating all these goodies. I wanted to tell you 8 surefire ways to avoid Thanksgiving weight loss. And then I'm going to end. I see I'm going over on my time. If Thanksgiving usually has you secretly loosening your belt before the pumpkin pie is served, you are in good company. The average American consumes a whopping 3,500 calories with dinner alone. Well, we don't want you to diet on Turkey Day. That's the day that Americans eat more food, the most food in the entire year. What do you think is the second day that they eat the most food? It's not Christmas. No, it's Super Bowl day. Super Bowl day. People bunch a lot of food on that day as well. Number 1, prevent the food coma. Try not to go over 1,000 calories. And here is how you do it. Number 1, go for the light white meat. The turkey breast is super lean, just 44 calories, 1 gram of fat, and no saturated fat with the skin off. It's a great source of iron, zinc, potassium, and B vitamins. Number 2, add gravy that has more flavor than fat. You can make your own using a low sodium broth, or if you go easy on the gravy. I know that you can't cook there, so just go easy on it. If you chill your gravy in the freezer for about 15 minutes, it makes it easier to skim off the fat before you use the turkey juices to make the gravy. Number 3, stuff your bird with whole grains. Bake the stuffing separately so it doesn't soak up grease from the bird. Instead of boring white breadcrumbs, wow your guests with a whole grain mixture. Number 4, add a touch of green. A green bean casserole. That is a retro dish from the 1950s that has made a big comeback. But you can cut calories in half by boiling fresh beans until just tender and season them with a touch of olive oil, sea salt, and black pepper. Number 5, cranberries are the super berry. Skip the canned sauces, which are jammed with added sugar. Number 6, potatoes. Mashed potato recipes. If you go with a lighter recipe, these will have less fat and calories than the traditional mashed potatoes. Number 7, watch the liquid calories. Stretch 1 glass of white wine, which is about 120 calories, to 2 by mixing it with bubbly water. Or just serve Martinelli's, which is a sparkling non-alcoholic drink, and it doesn't have very many calories. Number 8, oh my, don't skip the pie. You can trim more than 100 calories and 7 grams of fat from a slice of pie by skipping the crust. Try a pumpkin custard, or just scrape it off the crust. Well, that's about all I have time for today. Just one little bit of encouraging news, and that is that the virus vaccinations, according to the chief scientific advisor for Operation Warp Speed, he says vaccinations will hopefully begin on the 11th or 12th of December. And of course, it's going to go to the medical personnel first, and then seniors who live in residences like yours. So the test trials have been more successful than they ever dreamed they would be. Now, if you think about the fact that the flu shot usually is 60% effective, And this last year's flu shot was only 30% effective. The fact that these vaccines for COVID-19 are more than 90% effective, and the one for Pfizer is 95% effective, that is pretty darn good. So those will be around pretty soon. I know I'll be lining up since they've already had all the trials with 30,000 in one and 60,000 in another, and they all did well. I can hardly wait. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. I've got to go ride my bike and try to work off some of these calories. So I don't want to look like a big old blimp when I see you next week. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.